Hey guys, it's Turnrow here, bringing you a new Warcraft 3 World Editor tutorial series. And over the next series of videos, we'll be covering how to make cinematics. Now, this will be a complete series from beginning to end on how to incorporate and improve good quality Warcraft 3 cinematics within your own maps. And in this series, there will be a series of 8 different topics that we'll cover. So there will be something of benefit whether or not you are a novice or whether you are someone who knows how to make cinematics but you would like to know a few tips on how to improve them. So for this first video, we'll just be covering the beginning of the absolute basics, the minimum you need to know if you just want to get a cinematic to work. So the first thing we need a plan, whether or not it is in our head or on paper on what we want to achieve. For simplicity purposes, we're just going to have a cutscene of Samurai the Blade Master walk from one point to another and maybe some sound will play. Fairly straightforward. Once you know how the cinematic is going to play out, we can start implementing it. So first we're going to head into the trigger editor area and we are just going to delete all this default actions. Next, we're going to create a new trigger and we're going to call it cinematic. And you have two options. What we'll be doing is we'll be having the cinematic play once the player orders Samurai to reach a specific area. So let's go into the terrain editor and we put in some rocks. There we go. And then we're going to create a region that allows us to identify when Samurai is going to enter the region. So we call this cinematic region. And then we go back into the trigger editor. And for the events, we click on a new event. We go to unit enters region. So when the unit enters, either we select it from the drop down list or we go select a region and just click to select the region. And we also want to do a check to make sure that the unit who is entering this region is the correct unit. So we can either go, let's go unit comparison. So if the owner of the entering unit, the person who's going to be entering it, is equal to the actual player itself. Next, we're going to go to new actions. We're going to go T for trigger and we're going to turn it off just so the cinematic only runs once. And then we can proceed with the actual cinematic. If you intend to have the cinematic play at the beginning of the map, then all you need to do is just delete these and in the melee initialization trigger, just go actions, T for trigger, run, cinematic. So either way will work depending on if you want it to be at the beginning or the end. The first thing we're going to do with this cinematic is we're going to have a fade in, fade out animation, just to showcase to the player that we are actually transitioning into a cutscene. So we go into actions, we go to C for cinematic, we go to fade filter, and then we click on fade out over 2 seconds, which is an acceptable amount. And you don't need to worry about this one. What these three numbers mean with the percentages is they are main red, green, and blue. So at the moment they're at 0%, meaning that when the screen fades out, it will be black. If we want it to be white, we would change these numbers to 100%. We go 100. Or if we want them to be a specific color, then we can choose red, for example. So we make sure that red is at 100% and the other two, green and blue, are at 0. You can learn more about RGB colors by looking it up on the internet. But for this purpose, we're just going to have the screen fade out to black. And transparency refers to whether or not the fade out is invisible. We don't want it to be invisible, so we leave it at 0%. We click on OK. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a new action. We're going to go wait for 2 seconds, just to allow the game to finish doing the fade out animation before it runs the cinematic. Then the next thing we're going to do once the screen has faded out, the new action we're going to do is we're going to go C for cinematic. We're going to go cinematic mode, turn on for all players. So this is where it will actually bring up the necessary bars at the top and bottom of the screen to showcase that an actual cinematic is playing. Next, we're going to create a camera. So we want a certain area on the map where the cinematic is going to play. So we make sure we go to that area, and we'll just do some basic terraining to just demonstrate that this is the area where we are going to showcase the cinematic. We're going to go to the camera panel, and where we want the camera to be positioned, we make sure that we are in the correct spot, and then we just click on the create camera button and a camera will be created. Then we head back into the trigger editor, we go into new actions, C, and we go apply. Either select it from the drop down or go select camera and just select it by left clicking on the mouse. And we want to apply it straight away, so we leave it at 0 seconds. Next, we're going to set the sky. Now in Warcraft 3, the sky is black, which you don't notice because the game is positioned at a bird's eye view. If, however, we change the look of the camera by just holding down Control on the keyboard and right clicking, you'll notice that you can see the sky. If we want to change this to be a natural sky, then we go into new actions, we go to E for environment, and we click on set sky, and we have multiple different options to choose from. So let's say we want there to be just a generic sky with a blue sky with white clouds. And you can experiment yourself to know what each of these skies will look like. So for example, Felwood sky will be a dark green misty sky, and Dalaran will be like a evening orange purple sort of sky, etc. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up the units. So we just click on the scroll mouse to go back to the normal view. We want to move Samuro, the Blade Master, who was over here, to over here. So we're going to create a new region. We go over to the region panel. We create a new region. We call it, by double click on it, Samuro region 1. And then we create another region where he is going to move to. So we'll just go ahead and do that. And then we also rename it to Samuro region 2. Next, we're going to go into the new action. We're going to go into U for unit, and we'll scroll down to where we want to issue Samuro to move to a location. So we go click on the Samuro from the drop down, or go select a unit from the actual map. We order him to move to the center of this region. And then we want him to move instantly to that region. So we go back into the new event and we go unit, move unit instantly facing 270 degrees, or leave it as default. Okay, so we move him into this region here. Now the reason why we are ordering Samuro to move to that region before moving him is so if at the beginning of the cinematic the player orders Samuro to go to a specific location, it means that if we do not have this, then the game will move Samuro to that region, but then he'll begin to start moving to the point where the player last ordered him to go to, which is not an effect we want. So we'll just order him to move to a location forcefully and then moving him instantly there. So now we can actually start making the actual cutscene, and we'll just demonstrate that by just creating a comment which says start of cutscene. So for this particular cutscene, we're going to copy this particular command and paste it, since we're going to be showing Samurai moving into a particular location, which is the second region. Next, we are going to copy this fade out, and we're going to paste it just before the cutscene, and we go fade in. So we want the cinematic to fade in to the screen. Next, we're going to wait a couple of seconds just to allow Samurai to reach the area before we actually play the sound. And then after the 2 seconds is up, we're going to play a sound to demonstrate that Samurai has reached his particular point, which we can do so by, first of all, we go into the sound editor, which is where we can make use of sounds in order to use within our triggers. For this particular one, I'll be going into the ambient sounds, going to the doodad effects, and I'll be playing the Warlock Appear sound. So I just right click on it, go use as sound, get out of that. We go back into the trigger editor, we go into new action, S for sound, and we go play Warlock Appears. And we will just wait a certain amount of seconds. We'll wait 5 seconds. Let's see how long that, okay. We'll probably wait 6 seconds just to allow the sound to finish play. And so that is the actual cinematic we'll have. So then we go and do a new comment which will demonstrate that this is the end of the cutscene. Then we're going to go back and go new action and go C for cinematic. We're going to fade out again. So we just fade out and then we go new action, wait 2 more seconds. And then the next action we do is we reverse everything we just did. So in terms of the environment, we go into E, we go set sky to none. With the cinematic mode, we go into C and we go turn cinematic mode off for all players. And then we also go into cameras and we want to reset the game camera. So any changes we've made with the actual camera, it will reset back to the normal default view for the player over 0 seconds, which is immediately. And then once we've done that, then we can go ahead and we could go into cinematic, fade back in. And there we have it. So here we have a basic cinematic from beginning to end on where it fades out and then it turns on cinematic mode where it sets the camera, it changes the sky, it moves Samurai to where he needs to be. And then the actual cinematic of where Samurai moves to a specific region, it plays a sound, and then it fades out and it resets everything back to normal. Now we're just going to save this, and we're going to test it and see how it plays. So now we're loading into the map, and we'll get to see how our cinematic plays. So once Samurai reaches this rocky region, then the cinematic will play. We see Samurai moving across and you hear the sound playing in the background. It waits 6 seconds and then it fades out and then it fades back in, and here we are. So far the cinematic we've made is pretty straightforward, and in the next series of videos we'll be covering more in depth on how we can optimize and improve our cinematics. But for now, this will do. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial video. If you did, feel free to like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can be informed of the next series of videos that will be coming. But until then, I'll catch you guys next time. Bye now.